Welcome to episode 18 of Wellness Wednesday's audio series. I'm Nissrine, registered holistic nutritionist and mindful nutrition and wellness coach for female entrepreneurs who are looking to prioritize their health and well-being without fad diets and wellness trends. I created this series to bring a fresh perspective to nutrition and wellness, one that is centered on and led by you. Now, there's a plethora of information out there, and it can be really hard to know what to do and eat to feel good in your body. It's easy to get caught up in fad diets and wellness trends, often questioning, doubting, and second guessing your decisions when it comes to the way you nourish and care for yourself. But here's the thing, I wholeheartedly believe that reconnecting with your own innate wisdom to know what your body needs to thrive is the first step to a life changing transformation and true lasting wellness. And that progress is made by taking small steps mindfully, intentionally, and consistently. Today's episode is part 4 of a 4-part series all about listening to your body. If you haven't yet listened to the first 3 episodes, I encourage you to do that first and then come back to this one. Okay? Now, in the first episode, I explored what it means to listen to your body and how to do it by strengthening your interoceptive awareness. So, the awareness of all things that are happening in your body. In the next 2 episodes, I went on to share tools, the hunger scale and the mind body scan, which are tools to help you strengthen that interoceptive awareness and to reconnect with yourself on a deeper level. In today's episode, I'm sharing another important tool to help you further reconnect with your body and better understand what it needs to thrive. And this is the Food and Mood Journal. All right. Now, while the hunger scale and mind body scan are excellent tools that allow you to reawaken your innate wisdom so you can start actually hearing your body's signals, they don't necessarily tell you what to do next. Okay. Now, while the answer should be intuitive and we'd all love for it to be, it's not just a switch we can flip on, right? Sometimes it's not intuitive, and that's where the Food and Mood Journal comes in. For example, the hunger scale will help you reconnect with your hunger and satiety cues so that you know when it's time to eat and when it's time to stop without relying on an outside source to give you a rigid eating plan and tell you when and how much you should eat, right? The body scan will further help you by allowing you to differentiate between physical, biological hunger cues and the psychological triggers of hunger, and will encourage you to honor your physical hunger with food while finding more appropriate ways to cope with your psychological triggers of hunger. Now, these are great tools, don't get me wrong, but the Food and Mood Journal is going to take that a step further because it's a tool that will allow you to connect the dots with your eating habits and patterns, your food choices, and your physical and emotional state of mind and mood. All right. It will bring to light the patterns and choices that are serving you and the ones that are not serving you, right? And it will help you make sense of what your body needs to thrive and feel its best. Okay? Now, I want you to be careful with this though, because the Food and Mood Journal isn't intended to be an obsessive tracking tool designed to shame you or your food choices, right? It's not designed to kind of make you feel guilty about what you're eating and shameful about the choices that you're making. It's a self-awareness tool. Okay, that's really what it is, because self-awareness is the best way to know what works for your body and what doesn't, right? You can't eat with intention and wisdom and know intuitively how to nourish and care for yourself if you aren't in tune with your body and aware of how your choices and patterns are actually affecting you. Okay? Let's get to it. I'm going to walk you through how to start a food and mood journal so that you can use this practice to help you not only reconnect with your body on a deeper level, but also to make sense of some of the signals that your body is sending to you and to help you know what to do with that information. Okay? So to start your food and mood journal, you can use a reflection journal if it's something that you've already got going. If you don't already have a reflection journal, this would be a great time to start one. I've said this many times before because I really believe in the power of having a reflection journal and just really being able to reflect your thoughts and emotions onto paper and then come back to them at a later date. It's so powerful. If you don't have one and you don't want to start one, I'm not going to push you. So get a regular piece of paper or your cell phone's notes app to create the following 4 columns. What I ate, right? One column. Where, what time, and with whom I ate. So kind of the circumstances around your meal. The mood I was in and what I was doing when I was eating. So the first column is what you actually ate, the meal. The second column is kind of the circumstances, the environment, where, what, sort of where, what time, who was with you. And the third column is all about your mood. So the mood I was in, what was I doing when I was eating? Was I working? Was I answering emails? Or was I in conversation with somebody? And then the last column is how did I feel physically and psychologically before, during, and after my meal? Okay. It These are kind of the important 4 areas that you want to capture on the food and mood journal because they're going to help you connect the dots between kind of what is happening in your daily life, the food choices that you're making, and how you're actually feeling on the holistic level, physically, psychologically, mind, body, and soul. Okay. Now, as you're keeping this food journal, it's important to make note of moments when you are in touch with your hunger and satiety cues, right? So as you're keeping this journal, you're noting, okay, what did I eat? Where, what time? My mood? How did I feel physically? Keep note of the hunger cues there. So keep note of when you felt hungry. Keep note of when you didn't feel hungry and you stopped eating. You didn't finish your meal because you felt full more quickly. Keep note of the times when maybe you ate your full meal and you still felt hungry and you wanted something else to eat afterwards. It's important to keep uh, sort of track of these situations because it's for three reasons, let's say, okay? To know what they feel like for future reference. So if you've had a hard time connecting with your hunger signals, keep track of them because then you'll know what they feel like and you'll have a future frame of reference for them. It's also to track changes in your ability to connect with your signals over time. So if you're the kind of person who says, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not really connecting with my signals. I'm not hearing myself when I'm hungry, when I'm full. I tend to eat on autopilot just because I know it's mealtime, but I don't really know if I'm hungry at that time, or I overeat and then I feel stuffed when it's too late." Um, Tracking the changes kind of in a food and mood journal is going to also help you track the changes in your ability to connect with your signals over time. You're going to see the change over time, right? And then last but not least, it's a really great way to celebrate progress as it happens, right? Because as you notice maybe yourself being more in tune with your signals, you're going to feel really proud of the progress that you're making. So even if you haven't reached kind of the ideal goal, per se, whatever that happens to be, you can still celebrate that progress as it's happening, right? It's a way to keep you focused on the journey and not the destination. All right. Now, after a few days of keeping a food and mood journal, I'm going to say, you want at least a week, right? 7 days. Um, I'd say 2 weeks is even better. But after a couple of days, take a look at your entries. Let's say after 3 or 4 days, take a look at your entries and start making note of anything that jumps out at you. Like, are there any patterns that you're seeing? If not, then no worries. Just keep going with it and then every few days, I want you to stop and look at it and kind of check for those patterns, okay, that are emerging, things that you're noticing. Are there certain foods where after you've eaten them you feel sluggish and tired? Are there certain times a day when you feel like you're ravenous and you eat past your point of satiety and then you feel bad? Are there days when you can constantly skip meals and then you feel ravenous a few hours later? Are there days when you feel completely in tune with your body and everything is working, right? So make note of anything that jumps out at you so that you can start to notice patterns, right, in the food choices you're making and how they make you feel. You'll start noticing the patterns, your eating patterns and habits, and how they make you feel. You'll be able to connect the dots with all of these things as time goes on. And when you're making note of these things, you want to ask yourself a few different questions. So, am I overeating, undereating, undernourishing on a regular basis, right? Do you notice this pattern? Is it happening, every day, every couple of days, or on days when you feel stressed, right? Am I balancing my meals? So take a look at your meals. Are you balancing them? And if you don't know kind of what a balanced meal looks like, I've got a great resource for you. It's actually a simple 5-step framework to nourishing meals in minutes, and I'll pop the link to it in the notes below. It's a free guide that will help you create balanced meals without a lot of fuss. Okay. Then you want to ask yourself, am I snacking often? And am I doing it mindlessly? So, even if I'm not hungry, am I just, do I always have food at my desk? Or am I always going into the kitchen to grab a handful of something to eat? Or am I always standing in front of the refrigerator or the pantry wondering what I could eat next? And even though I'm not hungry, ask yourself that, right? Ask yourself, am I eating too quickly, right? And what happens? Like, so if you notice that pattern, you're keeping the pattern or sort of the journal, and every time you eat, you make note of, how you felt physically, psychologically before and during and after the meal. Did you notice that you were eating quickly? Um, and then if you notice that you're eating quickly some days, is it happening every day? Is it happening at every meal? What are the circumstances around that? Because that's going to help you kind of also decipher, like, how is that making you feel? How is that having an effect on your digestion, right? And then also it has an effect on your ability to read your hunger and satiety cues when you eat too quickly. Right? Ask yourself, am I often distracted when I'm eating? So am I watching TV? Am I scrolling endlessly through my telephone? Am I working at my computer and answering emails or reading articles? Or am I on the phone, for work? Am I feeling stressed about something else? What's happening when you're eating? Right? Maybe you're not doing anything work related or technology related, but you're eating with your family and you're getting up every, 2 minutes to get something from the kitchen for your family, for your kids. Um, that's also distracted eating, right? Because you're not able to sit and actually have a full meal without interruption. Um, Ask yourself, do I remember the taste of my food after I eat? So when you're making note, through your food and mood journal of how you felt physically or psychologically before and after eating, make note also of the moments when you felt satisfied with your meals, how they tasted, and then see if you remember, like if you have a pattern that shows that you're actually remembering the taste of your food as you eat. So when you journal after you've eaten, do you remember how it tasted? Do you remember feeling satisfied with what you're eating? Um, or, ask if your meals are, providing satiety. So are they helping you stay full? Are they giving you satisfaction? So do they fill you up and please your palate, right? And then finally ask yourself, do I feel good after eating, right? So notice these patterns. Am I, so every day when I make note of how I feel physically and psychologically before, during, and after I eat, do I feel good? Or do I feel bloated or sluggish? Or, do I have other digestive issues? Or do I still feel hungry? Do I feel guilty about what I ate? All of these things, right? Or do I feel like I've sacrificed or deprived myself of something, right? And then take a look at the overall thing and ask yourself, how do my food choices make me feel, right? Look at the whole thing now after, a week or two. Take a look at it, see those patterns, see those trends, see those connections, and try to notice which choices feel good in my body and which ones don't. I guarantee you that if you do this regularly and you're honest with yourself about it without beating yourself up about it. So, meaning like if you make choices that you're not so proud of during the week, just don't beat yourself up about it. Don't deprive yourself at the next meal. Don't go on some sort of bone broth diet or detox the next day. Just continue eating normally and making note of what's happening, with your food choices. And I guarantee you that patterns will emerge over time, um, to help you see what's happening, right? And ultimately, understanding how your food choices and eating habits and patterns are affecting you and your mood will help you correct them. Not in an obsessive, controlling way, but simply as a means to feel better in your body. You'll just naturally gravitate to doing the things that feel good, right? To doing the things that make you feel good, because we all want to feel good. And if you're not naturally gravitating towards the things that make you feel good, the things that make you feel better, if that's not happening for you naturally, then there may be a self sabotage thing going on there, and you'll need to take a deeper look at it. So, I would encourage you in that case to hire someone to help you work through these issues. Hire a coach to help you work through it. You can hire a therapist if you prefer that. If you already have a therapist, you can talk to them about that as well, or you can hire, a mindful eating or wellness coach or a health coach to help you work through why you may be self-sabotaging yourself. Okay. Now you've brought all of these things to light, and now you've got this amazing food and mood journal that's telling you so much about yourself. I want you to then start to reflect on your eating triggers throughout this food and mood journal. So if you've been tracking how you feel physically and psychologically before and after eating, you'll have noticed, hopefully, and you'll have noted the times when you're eating because you're hungry physically, psychologically, sort of biologically, and then the times when you're being triggered by something more emotional or a psychological trigger of hunger. Hopefully, you've been noting these things as you're doing your food and mood journal. And then you can look back on them and you can see, okay, how often did I eat out of habit and not necessarily answer the call of physical hunger? How often did I eat because I felt stressed or sad, or maybe because I felt bored, or because it was a habit of mine that every day at 4 o'clock I get up and I have a cookie with my afternoon tea, whatever it may be, or every time I sit down to watch my favorite television show, I grab a bowl of chips. Not because I'm hungry, but because this is something I just do on autopilot. Um, or how often do I eat out of a sense of obligation, right? So it's dinner time, it's time for the family to eat, and you sit down and you eat because you feel obligated to eat at that time, even if you're not hungry. Or maybe because you felt bad turning down food that was being offered to you when you're not hungry. For example, someone brings a cake to the office, or your neighbor drops off cookies, or your mom makes your favorite dessert the next time you're there for dinner, and you eat all of these things out of a sense of obligation to eat them because you feel badly saying no. So make note of all of this stuff. And remember, there's no right or wrong here, okay? While ideally we eat for physical hunger, um, non-physical hunger, sort of non-physical triggers of hunger, the psychological triggers of hunger happen sometimes, and they happen to everyone. And there's no shame in that, right? Um, it's important to be aware of when that happens. So, and that's why the Food and Mood Journal is such a great tool, because it helps you kind of up that level of awareness, right? It only becomes problematic though when you habitually use food as a coping mechanism. So, again, if this is something that you're doing, if you're noticing this and it's something that you can't stop on your own, consider getting professional support, right? Whether that be in the form of therapy, if you think that you need therapy for something like this, or in the form of health and wellness coaching from someone who, um, is trained to work with people, about their eating habits and patterns, right? So all of this is to say is the food and mood journal, again, is not some sort of obsessive food tracking tool. It is not designed to shame and guilt you into making better choices, right? It's a self-awareness tool. And when used alongside the hunger scale and the mind body scan, as well as mindful eating practices, which I talk a lot about on this audio series, but also throughout the blog, you'll find articles about this. The Food and Mood Journal will bring awareness to your eating patterns, to your food choices, and how they influence you and your relationship with food, physically and psychologically. It will also help you shed light on which foods make you feel your best, which ones leave you feeling less than great, right? And it'll increase your level of awareness of why you eat. So you can begin to address the psychological triggers of eating without judgment, shame, or guilt. But you'll begin to understand when it's happening and you'll be able to start addressing it because awareness is the first step. You have to first be aware that you're doing it. And you have to be aware of when you're doing it and actually to be able to identify the trigger, right? It's one thing to know that, I eat emotionally, I stress eat, and I'm an emotional eater. Okay, great. A lot of people say that, but can you identify the cause? What is the trigger? And what are better ways to deal with that trigger? So the food and mood journal will really help you uncover these things, right? And like I said earlier, in time, you'll naturally gravitate towards the habits, behaviors, and foods that serve you most while shedding those that do not. Okay. And if this does not happen, then I strongly encourage you to seek some professional guidance and support so that you're able to start shedding what isn't serving you and gravitating naturally towards the stuff that does serve you and does make you feel your best. If you need support in this area or with your nutrition and self care and making it a priority in general, you can book a complimentary wellness consultation with me to chat about your goals and how to get you there, okay, on your terms. At the very least, we'll have a nice chat and you'll get some clarity about the wellness journey ahead of you. Now, before I go, I want to just remind you about my pilot program entitled Reawaken Your Innate Food Wisdom, which is a self paced mindful nutrition program with 4 weeks of group support to help you prioritize your nutrition and wellness without fad diets and trends. All right. If you're interested in taking part of that, get on my mailing list to get an exclusive invitation once I'm ready to launch it. It will be an incredible journey to learning more about your body, what it needs to thrive, and just a general mindful approach to nutrition that will improve your relationship with food. And last but not least, it's a wellness education program that will guide you for life so that your nutrition and self care will always be a priority for you naturally. To get on my list, all you have to do is subscribe to this audio series or download my simple 5-step framework to nourishing meals in minutes. And you'll be the first to know when the pilot program is ready for testing in the fall. Okay. I'm going to pop all the relevant links in the notes below. So go ahead and click through to register and get on the list. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Wellness Wednesdays audio series, where I share a short audio clip each week to inspire you to reconnect with yourself on a deeper level so you can start nourishing and caring for yourself more mindfully and intentionally. Until next week, stay healthy, happy, and safe.